I'd like to see the time when we can open up our federal bank book and see something on the positive side than rather a deficit. I believe in the necessity of taxation, but only to the extent that we have an obligation to pay our bills. I'm conservative in the area of welfare distribution.
As to your general question, I think there are two things that I have to do as far as my district goes. First, I've got to vote in a representative fashion. I have to represent their own viewpoint. Secondly, I think I've got to work in this area of grants and of delivering government services to my people for which they're paying their tax dollars. So those are the two functions that I've got to serve, as I see it.
I was, amazed that we had such a fantastic match. We had a great crowd for all week. We had the most enthusiastic crowd I've ever seen, I think, in a tennis match, and we had the greatest tennis match I've ever seen.
What are your plans for next year? Would you like to do it again here in Dallas?
Yes, definitely. We plan to have it in Dallas the second week of May, and in Dallas definitely for next year, and hopefully for all the years to come. As long as the event is supported in Dallas, we want to keep it here.
Does it tell you something about the area? Do you think this area supports tennis more than other areas, or if you took this event to another major city, would you get the same kind of a support, do you feel?
Well, I think that the people in Dallas have supported the event. There's no doubt about that. I think that we may be able to go to a New York or to a bigger area and in time draw the kind of enthusiasm that we've had here, but we like to think of Dallas as a home base of WCT, and that's where we want to have our showcase, as it were. We think we can look after it better here than putting it out into another city.
Is WCT pleased at this point with the situation with the International Lawn Tennis Federation?
Yes, we are. Our goals are intact. We will have the World Championship of Tennis. It will basically be run from January through May. There'll be a slightly revised format for next year, but we will keep the same basic format as the World Championship of Tennis. There will be 8 players coming to the finals to play for $100,000 and a lot more in pride and prestige.
We've had basically the same players this year as last. Maybe they were
exactly
the same age.
Yeah.
With the new format, you think there will be maybe a new face or two?
I expect to see at least 3, I would say. 3 out of the 8 will be new faces, at least.
The principal determinant for the location of Town Lake is actually where the Corps designs the sailing line. Now this is the appropriate line which barges could sail on. This has to be very carefully engineered. Now Town Lake can expand then from that width.
So I went into the back room, and the heavy-set guy that was sitting by the telephone closed the door and leaned against it, and carried a gun on me. And just as soon as he cleared in front of me, I pulled the gun and I shot him point blank right in the
back room.
Yes, right in the stomach. He immediately ran and tried to crawl out of the door over top of the other guy who was leaning against the door trying to get a gun out of his shoe. Well, I popped at the guy with the shoe because I knew what was coming out. I think he fell on the ground and he looked like he was hit.
Well, of course, the purpose of this position paper is to state our position on the conditions and state what we feel the solution would be. Number one, with his resignation, we feel that Dallas can regroup itself into getting on board of some constructive leadership in our public education system.
Do you have another candidate in mind for
We
his
don't have
position?
candidates. That's not our job to get candidates. That's the school board's job to get candidates.
A water tank, and he snapped a couple of times and it didn't fire. Then all of a sudden it started popping all over the place, and I picked up a piece of steel that's the top part of that tank, and I held it up, and apparently his last shot ricocheted enough to tear my finger up a little bit. Yeah, it ricocheted apparently and just ripped the thing open.
Piece of steel, then, huh?
Yeah.
And his bullet hit that steel?
Yeah, and if it hadn't been for that, it would have hit my head, because my head was right behind it.
Well, I think that we've almost gotten over our tendency to underestimate the man. I think he's 100% alive until he's dead, and he's a fighter. And the continuous reminder to the people of what he's had to pay for his championing of their causes is going to come down on them, as it has on some conservative Democrats in Texas already, and compel them to honor his leadership. He is now, in the old Roman sense, the tribune of the people in this country.
I really don't know what role he could or should play. Obviously, he wants to help in any way that he can. But in some instances, in an effort to help, it can have a reaction in the opposite direction. And I know he wouldn't want that to happen any more than I would.
Do you see your brother as a possible compromise candidate at the Democratic National Convention if no clear-cut choice is available to the delegates for the others?
Yes, I've always felt like that this was a very remote chance that this could happen. And I say now that probably the odds are maybe that this opportunity might open up more so than it would have had he not resigned from the post of Secretary of Treasury.